Today on Rambling About Cars, feelings will be hurt, egos will be bruised. We're going to talk about the most overrated sports cars, supercars that are out there. And then we're going to talk about some of the underrated supercars and sports cars. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have some differing opinions on this one. It's going to be a fun episode, everybody. So all of you eager enthusiasts out there, it's podcast time. I'm Christopher Smith. We're on Rambling About Cars. Across the way is Chris Bruce.
Hey,
what's new and exciting, man?
Not much, same old, but we have a first-time guest joining us this week. We have Brandon Turkus, who is Motor One US's managing editor. And Brandon, as our first-time guest, you got to take the Rambling About Cars quiz.
Got to do the quiz. Everybody does it. No sweat, no worries. There are no wrong answers. The world will just silently judge you.
Right.
Which
I've been dealing with that for 36 years. It's fine.
Okay.
You want to start us off, Smith?
Yeah, I'll start us off here. Okay, let's see. What's your favorite car from the 1980s?
Nothing. The 80s were terrible.
Oh my God.
I was born in the 80s. I like there's nothing good came from the 80s.
Oh, well, the feelings are getting bruised already. Okay,
like,
that's a fair answer.
Look, I love the Radwood movement and all that stuff, but man, the 80s just don't do it for me.
I need to take a big drink after that one, man.
Yeah, that's a.
I'm a 2000s kid, man. Like that was when I really got into cars.
All right, we'll see how question two goes.
There's like a 30-year gap from like 1970 to like 2000 where I just didn't care about it.
Question two's not going well. Okay, so question two: what is your favorite car from the 1990s?
From the 1990s, man, it's tricky because. You know, I don't look back on the time period like fondly, but there were a lot of interesting cars. You know, from Germany, probably the 190E Cosworth. You know,
that's late 80s, isn't it?
Is that late 80s?
I think it's early 90s. I think it's early.
I think it was like 90, 94. I want to say.
Yeah,
not that late.
I think that's early 90s.
I'm looking, but keep going.
I could be wrong.
Okay. So
Japan, I mean, R33 Skyline, RX-7, Supra.
There's definitely going to be some hurt feelings on this episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff in the 90s. Yeah, it's fine. It's still not my favorite period. I'm like I said, I'm a 2000s kid. That's when I got into stuff.
Hey, like I said, no wrong answers. It's just. There are thousands of people internally judging you right now. Maybe tens of thousands. I don't know. Maybe this one will go viral. That'll be a good thing. Third question. Convertible or T-top?
Convertible all the way. No question about it. And it needs to be, I need to say this, it needs to be a soft top convertible. None of this hard top nonsense. It needs to be a soft top convertible. It goes down quicker. It looks better. It's just as good for NVH when the top is up, but the thing is, you should never be driving the top up unless it's raining
or really cold. And I say really cold.
No, really cold isn't an excuse.
Well, I mean, I've done my Christmas tours, with the Santa.
Listen, I drove a 911 Turbo or 911 Targa earlier this year. It was 23 degrees out, and you're damn skippy. I had the roof down.
Nice. All right, Bruce. Go ahead, jump in with a question.
Quick factual update. Just looked it up. Your 190E, the final version, the Evo 2, came out in 1990. So
perfect. I'm golden.
Barely a 90s car, but
Qualifies.
I'm golden. I mean, the 80s stuff. The earlier 190s, the E30 M3s, like they're fine. It just wasn't especially for American stuff. America wasn't building anything good in the 80s. Nothing. There was nothing.
Ooh, okay.
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 Right.
Send your emails to podcast@motor1. Attention, Brandon Turkus.
Final question. You get one. Heated seats or heated steering wheel. What are you taking?
Heated seats. Covers more surface area.
It's true.
I mean, that's what I thought. But I mean, on that question, I think we've been pretty 50-50.
I think we're starting to lean 60-40 for heated seats, but there have been several heated steering wheel people.
I've lived along, and listen, I'm sure the heated steering wheel people are like Clint or Jeff, who live somewhere warm, and not those of us that have to actually deal with winter. and realize the superiority of the heated seat.
Well, I mean, if you live in Florida, 60 degrees is winter. I mean, come on.
I got in the car with Clint one time when I was down in Miami, and it wasn't cold. It was cold by Florida standards. It was like 40 or 50 degrees. And poor kid has puffy coat on and like heated seats cranked all the way up. And yeah.
Meanwhile, here in Rapid City, South Dakota, in January, if it gets above 35 and the roads are clear, there are Harleys going up and down the street.
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
Well, let's bruise some egos here. Let's hurt some feelings.
So let me clarify the genesis of where this is coming from. So person who has been on this show before and who Brandon just mentioned, Jeff Perez, he was covering the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance for us this weekend. And he's already put up one story about Hennessy. Brandon, did you know, does he have any other stuff coming up about that? Or
bro, I'm on vacation this week. I have absolutely no idea what's coming.
Good answer. Never mind. Forgot about that. Anyway,
I don't think there is, but check motor1.com just to be sure, everybody.
Anyway, so he gets there on Friday and he says the following things from our Slack chat. Off topic, but I counted no less than 50 Porsches on the drive into Amelia Island. None of them at all interesting or unique. Brandon, you responded, it sounds like Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. Why do people keep buying them in regards to Porsches?
Jeff.
Mostly 911s, modern and classic. Some came in GT4s, which are kind of cool, I guess, and a few 914s, but mostly 911s. Let me follow this up here. Brandon, you responded, I want to hate on people who just buy a 911 by default, but they're so damn good at everything. And then Jeff had been responding that the 914s at least are different. So
suffice it to say,
if by different he means bad, then yes, Jeff is correct.
I mean, this
we're going to have some problems. Okay.
This sparked a bit of a debate.
You were at lunch.
Cars that are overrated. I was at lunch. I came back. There was like 20 some odd pages of no, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. I mean, the typical stuff that auto journalists do, right?
Right. Because while we all like cars, we all like different cars and we like them for different reasons. And so that gives us different opinions on things. So that started this conversation. Let's have a conversation about which cars, specifically sports cars, are overrated and which cars are underrated. And so that's what we're going to be presenting here for you guys tonight. We are going to start with the overrated ones. Brand or Smith, I think you said you had some images. Do you want to start things off?
You want me to jump right in with the A80 Supra that's so overrated?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just kind of sick and just done with the A80 Supra. Hey, it's a cool car. It's a neat car, right? Here, let me go ahead and pull a picture up here, just so everybody that's watching on YouTube can know exactly what we're talking about here. Oh, is that the right screen? No, that's not the right screen. Talk about the A80 Supra.
No, I am. So the A70 I could see. But why the A80? Like that's the one.
Because it was a Fast and Furious car. I mean,
it was Fast and Furious.
It's totally a contrarian take. Like, I don't like this car because it's the most popular JDM car of the past 20 years.
Yeah. Smith, what else about it is overrated?
All right.
Other than
my StreamYard isn't working again, so I'm just gonna rant about it here. Okay, so
you rant. I'll find an image.
So, like I said, it's not a bad car. It's really not a bad car. The 2JZ, hey, beautiful engine, probably one of the best engines that's ever been built. But it is not the second coming, people. I mean, why are people losing their minds? It wasn't really that great of a handling car. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It was kind of beefy. It had kind of awkward proportions, I think. And I mean, aside from just putting big turbos on it and making it go super fast in a straight line, which, by the way, you can do to pretty much anything, where is all this fascination coming from with the A80? Where is it coming from?
It's the movies. I mean, it's totally the movies.
It has to be Fast and Furious. Up to that point, though, I mean, it still had a pretty good following, but I don't know. Am I completely wrong? I mean, I'm not, but
You're not. No. So you're reminding me of something that I heard. So this was, I believe, a regular car reviews video. They basically called it a Japanese Trans Am. And that has stuck with me because I think it's true. I think that's how you would kind of describe the Supra. It's a Japanese Pontiac Trans Am, and not saying anything bad about the Trans Am, but it's very much a straight line car. It's basically famous because it appeared in a really, really popular film franchise. And if it weren't for that, I wonder if it would have the cachet that it does.
Yeah, no, but I mean, the 77 Trans Am, I mean, come on, that appeared in Smoking the Bandit, and people haven't lost their mind over that.
Some people have.
So some people have, but
no, I think we're forgetting the other thing that the Supra was well known for, and maybe not as well known as some other JDM cars, but Gran Turismo. Yeah. I mean, we all grew up playing Gran Turismo 2. And I was a Skyline person personally.
I was an RX-7 guy.
The Kelsonic.
I had Skyline the 3000 GT.
We all picked him. None of us picked the Supra.
None of us picked the Supra. No,
that's telling right there.
Because you remember that in GT2, like rear drive, like high-powered rear drive cars were undrivable. You had to have all-wheel drive.
Yep.
Oh no, you just put a ton of power and then you just bounced them off the edge of the track for the entire race, and you still won because the AI was terrible.
Yeah,
but no, I mean it was true. I think it's the Supra is very much a product of Fast and Furious and also Gran Turismo, and I think we're seeing it. You know, if you look at the trend now of, you know, the rad trend of I want cars from the 80s and early 90s. It's very much driven by people that are coming into money now and want the cars that they saw in the movies and that they played in racing games. And that's why, you know, the Supra is the most visible version of that. And it also helps that they made a hell of a lot of them by you know, they weren't an uncommon car. Maybe they were in the US, but you can import them, and there are options for getting them.
I blame the car. I finally got my screenshot to work. I blame that car right there. That's Bruce. You wrote that article. That's the actual screen used Supra from the first Fast film.
That's the hero car. Yeah, that's the one.
The hero car,
or the hero exterior car, I should say. That was all the exteriors. That was the one that you saw.
Are there any estimates as to what that's going to bring at auction? Because I mean, regular A80s are
it's going to be easy six figures.
Easy 6 figure. I mean, the last one that sold was 185. Smith, I think you have. I'll look it up.
Yeah, but was that like a low mileage example? I mean,
the one that previously sold was non-turbo and a manual. This one is turbo and automatic.
All right.
Yeah, but I mean, screen used hero car. I mean, I enjoyed the Fast films. I remember when they first came out, I kind of felt like making fun of them a little bit, but then I realized, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. And they've gotten admittedly a little silly over the years, but I just
they sent guys into space.
Well, they're going. They're about to. We don't know that they're going into space. It may just be like low Earth orbit, you know, like an Alan Shepard kind of thing.
That's space.
For anyone watching on YouTube, wait real quick. So anyone watching on YouTube, in 2015, a screen used one sold for $185,000. And like I said, that one was naturally aspirated, but a 5-speed. The one that's going to be up for auction now is a turbo, but an automatic. And it also, as I understand it, the one that's going up for auction now was it appeared more often. On screen.
So I don't think we can really like the Supra's goodness. I don't think we can really like put too much stock in what the ones that were in the movies end up going for. I think it's more about the ones that weren't, you know, aren't necessarily famous, but are Supras and are desirable because they're, you know, a 2JZ or a manual or whatever. And those ones are, you know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 cars when, you know, for low mileage examples. And I don't think that's unreasonable. There are a lot of cars in that era that if they come in and they say, you know, I've got X, Y, or Z, and it only has 10,000 miles on it, people are going to snap it up.
But so if I see an A80 Supra, turbo, manual, everything that you want, parked next to a 3000 GT VR4, especially if it's the Spider, I'm taking the 3000 GT VR4 every day of the week. Now, why isn't that 3000 GT VR4 50, 60 grand? If you look around, you can actually find those surprisingly, shockingly reasonable. Now, I know they're heavy, they're all-wheel drive, they didn't handle that great, but you know what? The Supra also didn't handle that great, right?
Yeah, but the 3000 GT was like, they were thick on the ground over here. Like, you could find Mitsubishi badge models, you could find Dodge Stealths. They were not uncommon.
Sure.
I feel like a Supra, at least in the United States, was not necessarily uncommon, but you might struggle to find a good example nowadays.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, they've gotten used over the years for sure.
Right.
I'm sure. Yeah, we need to move on because I know everybody
we
else
got
has
a lot more cars to talk about.
A lot more. Okay, Bruce, why don't you take us?
Sure thing.
We'll spare Brandon for the moment here.
Yeah, Brandon gets to go last, or at least on this round. So this brand, who I will be pulling up an image of now, they're still kind of going through a rough period. Brandon, I think you're going to tell me they're about to emerge from a rough period. But
oh boy,
Maserati Spider.
Ah, yes. This is on my list for like cars that are underrated.
You think this is overrated, Bruce?
I think this is overrated.
No, it's fantastic. It's a Ferrari V8 and a 6-speed manual. It's rear drive and a roadster. What are you on about? It is Pininfarina style, I think. I could be wrong there, but
no, I think Giugiaro. I'm looking at it right now.
Giugiaro.
Okay, but it's the worst period of Maserati that they've been kind of in the doldrums for years.
No, Maserati's been around for 70 years, and there have been a lot of worse periods. You cannot classify this one as the worst.
I like how you phrase that. There have been a lot of worse periods.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
this is Maserati we're talking about here.
Hey, at least in the 80s, the bi-turbo appeared in Miami Vice. No one
that was the worst era.
No, this is worse. This is worse because this is bad styling on top of bad reliability.
Bad styling. It looks fantastic.
It looks like a marshmallow.
Yeah, everything in the early 90s or early 2000s looked like a marshmallow. But it has a Ferrari. It was a Ferrari V8 and it has the right badge.
Well, let's stop right there. It has the Ferrari V8, so it's going to need like $10,000 worth of service every 5,000 miles.
You're buying a Maserati. You should know that. It's an Italian car. It's not so much as a negative. It's more that it's an Italian engine than that it's a Ferrari engine.
I mean, seriously, if I'm going to spend $10,000 in maintenance every 5,000 miles, I'll buy the Ferrari.
Yeah, but you can't find a Ferrari for the same price. You can get one of those for 20 grand in good shape, low mileage.
But yeah,
I still don't think it's overrated.
Lots of deferred maintenance. Oops, wrong.
Yeah,
same
sure,
picture.
maybe.
I still don't think it's overrated though.
I do. I don't think there's anything special about those cars. I think that they came from the worst period of that brand.
Oh, that looks so good.
No, it doesn't.
So
those
good.
weird, like boxy tail.
It looks like somebody. It looks like compared to the front, it looks like somebody like photoshopped a Volvo ass end on that or something.
It looks like it wants to be an Audi TT and can't.
It's better than a TT.
I disagree.
But to maybe answer a broader question here, we're talking about overrated cars. Just being unloved or loved. Well, in this case, just being unloved doesn't mean it's overrated, does it?
No, I just see no appeal in this car. I think if you look at vehicles from the same era, I would much rather have an SL class of the same time. I'd much rather have the Ferrari of the same time.
It's a different kind of vehicle. I mean, the SL class is a different kind of vehicle. They didn't make a front engine rear drive V8. Well, they didn't make a front engine rear drive V8 Ferrari in that era. That is a very unique vehicle for that time period, and that's why I would have it. Like I love the fact
I'd rather have a BMW Z8 though. The BMW Z8 looks significantly better. It does have
but you can't find a BMW Z8 for less than 100 grand.
Well, that's because they're cool.
They don't exist.
That's because people want them.
So is that.
No, people don't want them, as you said, and I agree with you.
Great.
That's a $25,000 car.
I hope people keep not wanting them so I can buy one day. I'd have the coupe though. I prefer the lines on the coupe. But V8 manual rear-wheel drive Ferrari engine done.
It looks good sitting in the shop.
Yeah, so does every Italian car. Where's your Ferrari? It's in the shop. Where's your Lancia? It's in the shop.
I'm looking over here at my overrated list, and I'm getting a little worried if we have time for another round here.
Here's your coupe, just for everyone.
Let's take a look.
Oh,
I think the
fantastic.
coupe looks a little bit better.
Yeah,
look at the scale. Look at the scallop on that C, like the rear quarter window and the C pillar. Like that. That's amazing.
The coupe
so
looks better.
Pretty.
The coupe looks a little bit better, but again, I mean, I just keep coming back to: is this really an overrated car?
It's not.
Maybe I'm wrong. It is to me.
I think it's a great car.
Okay.
Well, Brandon, I would have
your turn.
All right, Brandon. Break our hearts, man.
You guys. I'm disappointed, frankly.
Oh boy,
I expected more outrageous takes if I were going to be.
Well, I'm not done.
Okay, all right. That's good to know.
My super take was probably the mild one.
I'm going to say the Aston Martin DB7.
Okay.
That was a vote of confidence that he was agreeing.
Okay,
the tone of that.
Well, on what grounds?
You think it's overrated? Because
I think it's hilariously overrated.
Why?
Because I can get a Jag XK that's the same thing for significantly less money. I don't think it's I don't think it's an attractive Aston Martin, and that's a problem because every Aston Martin is pretty. I don't love it. I don't get the fuss over the DB7. Every time I see one, I look at those stupid taillights on it and that Jaguar-esque front end, and I recoil. And part of this might be because it was followed by the DB9, which I think is still one of the prettiest Aston Martins ever made. Yeah, look at it's just awkward and ungainly, and those wheels do it no favors, and yeah.
But so I agree with you on the XK8 take. That basically they're the same vehicle, with different badges. But the thing with the Aston Martin is you can get the V12.
Yeah, I love a V12. I will never say no to a V12. But man, when that's the only redeeming quality, really? The Jag is better looking. I mean, it doesn't look as good as an Aston should. And you've got Ford switchgear on the inside, and it's just no thank you.
Here's the taillights you
Ford under the bus. Then that was the Ford era.
Oh, the taillights are the worst. The taillights are so bad.
I actually don't think they're that bad.
They look like they could have come off a Mondeo.
Maybe
they probably did, but they don't look bad.
No, they look hideous. I hate them. That's my least favorite angle of that car.
I find myself.
Listen, I normally like those big, obnoxious wheels, but they did not do that car any favors.
No, those wheels they're just ugly. They're just straight up ugly. I find myself not really having much of an opinion, which maybe is kind of telling. Is that really an overrated car? I guess
I think people revere those things for.
I guess you could say,
I think people do revere the V12s.
It has an Aston badge, so therefore it must be amazing. And on that grounds, I guess I could see it being overrated.
Well, the ones with the supercharged V6 get no love, or inline 6 get no love, like that. But I think the V12 is. Brandon, here's an XK8 just for comparison. Also a coupe.
I will say, that DB7 isn't on my list of I would really like to have.
That is better. It's not great. It's not a super pretty car, but it is better. The lines simply suit Jaguar better than they do Aston Martin. That's really what it comes down to.
I'll give you that. And for some reason, that particular image, that just looks like the rally version. Is it just it looks like it's sitting. It looks like it's ready for Baja, right?
It's sitting a little high.
They forgot to take spacers out of that. They shipped it with.
I kind of really like it sitting up like that. That's a weird take, I know. But I have a few of those.
So we're at 25 minutes. We're trying to keep this first segment to half an hour. So lightning round. So Smith, you're up. Yeah. Real quick. We'll get 2 minutes with each of them. Lightning round. Overrated. Go for it.
Any old Ferrari. bring in the hate mail.
That's kind of a wide net. I mean,
here's the thing, and I say this because I mean I adore Ferrari. There are so many Ferraris I would love to have, but you can sort of put this to any supercar manufacturer. People accept standards from them that they would never ever accept from more volume manufacturers, and maybe that makes them a little bit more niche or a little bit more desirable. But kind of like I was alluding to earlier with the Maserati, could you imagine if Ford offered a vehicle and said, hey, this vehicle has 450 horsepower, or in this day, okay, it has 850 horsepower, 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds, la 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 la, we'll sell it for $450,000. Okay, but you're gonna have to bring it in for service every 10,000 miles, and it's gonna cost you 10 grand. It's like full stop, screech, and it's like, why are the supercar brands, and Ferrari's kind of notorious for that, very very expensive services? Why? I mean, people talk about them being engineered wonderfully. They can't engineer the engines better to last longer. Well, I mean,
I don't think it's necessarily
that's my take.
I don't think it's necessarily about the engines lasting longer. And I'm going to regale you with a story from my misspent youth. You know, when I was delivering press cars, we had the first Audi R8s that came out. And to do some simple work on those mid-engine cars, it was an engine out service. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this was necessarily a fault of the engine or the car or the engineers, but that was just the way it is. And I kind of imagine it's the same thing with Ferrari, that, you know, the cars are well engineered. They will work, but maintaining them to work is going to require some more significant levels of maintenance. But my real question, Smith, is what is your definition of old Ferrari? Because if you're saying that a 250 GTO is overrated, I'm just going to fire you right now.
That's why I kind of cast the net broadly, because one, I don't want to be fired, but two, I mean, the modern Ferrari, it's like they seem to have kind of caught on. There are a lot of companies that are making high-end cars now. Maybe we need to focus a little bit more on setting our cars up so they last a little bit longer without needing such constant, specifically spaced intervals of expensive maintenance. And you're right, a lot of the work, it's an engine up procedure, but come on, you have lash adjustments and things that need to take place like every 20 or 30,000 miles on some of these cars. It just seems like, but it seems like they weren't thinking about, you know, actually building something to really hold up, but just, hey, make it go fast. Which there's nothing wrong with going fast.
Here's the other problem is that we're doing the thing.
This is happening now.
Well, no, here's the thing. You know, it needs this service item every 20 or 30,000 miles. Well, the vehicles aren't being driven 12,000 miles a year. They're being driven.
They should be.
Yes, that is a point, and I would write that op-ed. But the reality is that they're being driven 2,000 or 3,000 miles a year, and if that, hopefully at least that, and you know, those maintenance items are less of a concern when you're spending that money every 2 or 3 years rather than every 6 months. And I think it's important. I think it's important that you look at it that way and say people that are buying these cars are not using them the way, Smith, that you use your Mustang, or that I use whatever press car I have, or Chris, you use your Subaru. You know, people don't use them the same way.
But I think I feel like Ferrari and also Lamborghini and we'll say the legacy supercar brands, they're kind of realizing now maybe we need to put a little bit more emphasis on making these things a little less maintenance intensive. And they're realizing that, okay, yeah, we can. We don't need to just milk people for maintenance money. Okay.
Lightning round. Your point. Yeah, that's your point. Real quick, 30 seconds. 3000 GT, Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4, massively overrated. I would much rather pay the same amount of money for a Lancer Evo and have something that is going to handle far better and, well, maybe not look better, but certainly handle far better and be faster. It's not a bad car. It's a dumb car.
That's fair. I'm fine with that.
It's not overrated. Also, I would take the Evo. Full disclosure, I would take the Evo over the 3000 GT. Okay, but the 3000 GT isn't. It's not an overrated car.
It is. Okay, Brandon, 1 minute. What are you up? What do you got?
Ferrari F50.
Oh, go to hell!
The guy that's giving me sass over Ferrari comes in with the Ferrari.
It is the same problem. Listen, I almost said Enzo, but I didn't because I think the Enzo is actually like an interesting design. The F50 is an uninteresting piece of design. It is the size of a small moon. The thing is
okay. That's true.
Huge. It is huge. And it just doesn't look that good. And yeah, I know that one's going to be unpopular, but I really feel like Ferrari laid an egg with that one after the F40 and before the Enzo. And I don't love it. I've never loved it. And nothing is going to change my mind. Yeah, look at that. It's huge. It's huge. I have the same issue with the Maserati MC12. It is also enormous. And I know it's based on an Enzo.
But that's just an Enzo.
But an Enzo doesn't look that visually massive.
Yeah, the Maserati version, I mean, it's almost like
it's the size of a Range Rover. It's
like the Charger Daytona. It's like the classic Charger Daytona of supercars. Yeah. Let's stick a big nose on it, a big wing at the back, and we'll call it something different. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know that the F50 is overrated. I see your arguments. Well, maybe it is a little overrated, but
I think it's overrated. I think
that V12, and I do kind of dig the styling a little bit.
I think we're in a period right now where people are still ranting and raving over the F40, and that in the next few years, that ranting and raving will go towards the F50, and I'm just not here for it.
Oh, I agree with you there. The F40 is a far better vehicle than the F50 in terms of looks, in terms of innovation. Like, yeah.
I'll agree on that front. I don't want to shift F40 love to F50 just because of age. And I don't think that'll happen.
But that's what's going to happen.
I don't think so. The F40 is just such...
It doesn't look bad from that angle. I can't stand...
It doesn't look great from that angle. It kind of looks a little chubby from that angle.
I don't love the idea of a flagship Ferrari being a convertible. I don't love that it has those stupid nostrils on the hood. That angle is not bad, but from the front, I just can't stand it. I want nothing to do with it. Looks good from the back. Right. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, folks, those are the ones we think are underrated. So just stay tuned.
No. Sorry, overrated. That's overrated.
Those are the ones we think are overrated. Just stay tuned for what we think are underrated. But now is our middle section of the show where we received a really good email this week.
We did.
As always, I won't say names just in case people have privacy concerns, but I will go ahead and read it. So this is someone that last week we talked about the early performance trucks, and Smith and I both kind of thought that the Dodge Little Red Express was the first one that existed. Mm-hmm. And we were wrong, as it turns out. We were. For 1964 and 1965, Dodge offered two packages. They offered the Custom Sport Special, which was kind of just basically a styling package, but then they also offered, the High Performance Package, which lets you get the Max Wedge engine in the Dodge D100 pickup at the time. And so I've got some info pulled up about that here. And vamp for me a second, Smith. I didn't have my link as ready as I thought I did.
So, I mean, yeah, if you didn't catch our episode last week, I mean, we were talking about briefly the new Lightning that came out, which all electric, much faster than the original Lightning. But we were also talking about some of the performance trucks that could very well be why we're looking at a brand new electric Lightning now. Some of the performance trucks, the street trucks that led up to that first generation Lightning in the early 90s. And I mean, yeah, as we were nosing around, I mean, I think everybody knows about the Little Red Express trucks from 78 and 79. I mean, we were looking around further, but that's the nice thing about automotive enthusiasts and the automotive community, because it's our job to know quite a bit or a fair amount about as much as we can, but there are always people out there with a specialized knowledge where they know, I mean, they'll have forgotten more stuff than a lot of other people will have ever known about vehicles. Right. And that's where this find comes about.
So if you're watching on YouTube, this comes from the Custom Sports Special, which was the name of the one package, and the High Performance Package registry. So the Custom Sports Special was kind of just more like badges and stripes. So you got the bucket seats from the Dodge Dart, the center console from the Dodge Polara, carpeted floor mats, a chrome front bumper, things like that. But then if you went further or separately, you could get the High Performance Package, and that lets you get the 426 Street Wedge engine, which is massive, and it made 365 horsepower. You also got power steering, a different instrument cluster, dual exhaust, and a revised suspension. And not many of them actually got built. Motor Trend wrote a story last year at the same time that the TRX came out that 50 of them got built. According to this registry, they're showing 22, which that makes sense. Not everyone who has one is going to register one. So they're quite rare, but this is a vehicle that existed in the mid 60s that was really, unless any of our other listeners can find another one, this was the first performance truck that came out.
And how cool is that? I never knew this existed. And I mean, obviously with such low production numbers, I imagine a lot of people didn't know this existed. So Rambling About Cars listeners, you are the best. Thank you so much for sending this information in. And this is a good time to remind everybody, if you want to get in touch with us, podcast@motor1.com is the email. You can follow me on Twitter @CHWriting. Bruce, you've got your Twitter account. What's your Twitter again?
Chris Bruce, 1985. It's easy.
Hit us up with questions. Hit us up with ideas. On the occasional situation where we make mistakes, I guess you can call us out a little bit. It happens from time to time, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, just we're looking at this on YouTube. If you're not listening, you can catch us on
just
YouTube
real quick,
video.
I just wanted to give credit to the Motor Trend story, which was one of the better sources for information. But yeah, 360 horsepower. And then later 365. But yeah, just, you know, it looked kind of like a basic truck if you didn't get the custom sport package, but it had this massive engine underneath.
Total sleeper.
Yeah, the Motor Trend, the High Performance Package apparently cost $1,235, which at the time was 10 grand. So that's a hefty markup. And yeah, again, this is where I saw the 50 trucks built. I can't verify that. Like I said, the registry had like 22, 23. So it's something like that, but certainly not many. But interesting.
Very interesting. And hey, more shout out to some truck love.
Yep. So
are we ready then?
I think so.
Are we ready for underrated?
Yeah, why don't we just continue with the same thing? So, Smith, do you want to go first with underrated?
No, let's give our guest the distinguished honor of stepping us off into this new round of debate.
Underrated sports car.
So I get to plug the site. I get to plug a story I wrote and talk about an underrated sports car. Hi, Cooper. Nice to see you too. So recently I ventured over to Modena, Italy, and drove the Maserati MC20. And this is a new sports car, mid-engine, twin turbocharged V6, 621 horsepower, 623 or something like that. And you know, I defended that Maserati that Chris posted earlier. But the reality is that Maserati as a brand has kind of struggled in a lot of ways throughout its 90-year history, especially over the last 20 years. This is and I'm bringing this up because I feel like we haven't really heard a lot about the MC20. I don't feel like there's a ton of really breathless commentary on this new product, when in reality there's a lot about it that is very, very exciting. And I think that it kind of sets itself apart from the past 20 years of Maseratis with a factory built engine. The engine is built in Modena, like literally like 50 feet from where the car is built. It's crazy. Like I toured the factory while I was there. And yeah, it feels like a very special car for Maserati, the brand. I think the owners will find it to be very different than the past 20 years of Maserati. It drives beautifully. It is an absolute joy to drive. I'm really excited to get one here in the US and spend some more time with it on roads that I know. But yeah, I haven't heard a lot about it. Like, it kind of debuted, I want to say late last year. I think it was like September or August or something like that.
Sounds right.
Yeah. And then it was like radio silence after that. And, you know, after having driven it and seeing where it's built and seeing the engine plant and the paint shop and all of this stuff, it's just, it's a really exciting car. And I hope it does well for Maserati, because it, you know, the brand needs some wins, and this definitely feels like one.
You know, I mean, we're looking at it now. If you're not following on YouTube, we're looking at the car now. Brandon, I can't really disagree with you on this one. I mean, last year, obviously, COVID kind of just socked everybody in all industries, obviously, but the auto industry specifically. So I think that might be part of the reason why it kind of went under the radar. But I mean, you're right. I mean, when you look at some of the other vehicles that have just been hyped and hyped and hyped to death, Maserati didn't have much to say on this. And looking at it, I mean, with the dihedral doors open like that, I think it's a mean looking car. I think it's one of the best looking Maseratis in a long time. I like the idea that they're making their own engine.
Right. I wanted to mention that the fact that for the past 20 years
20 years. Yeah, they've been
Ferrari engines. And so the fact that they're finally making their own engine again, and even before that, if you think about, they were using Citroen engines because Citroen owned them. So it's been a while for a truly Maserati built engine.
It's been literally decades since they were building engines in Modena. And you know, the engine the engine plant is extremely modern. It's they're only building, I want to say, I don't remember for certain, but I think they have the engine production matched to the chassis production, and they're only building 6 cars a day.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so 6 cars a day, hand built. The engine plant is 12 people. You know, it is 12. You know, this is not like, you know, AMG where it's one person, one engine. It's 12 people,
all engines.
For all engines for an entire line of vehicles. And yeah, that'll expand. And you know, the engine technology that makes the 3-liter V6 special can be applied to other Maserati or other future engines. But man, it's an honest and exciting effort from a brand that, you know, I think every car enthusiast wants to see succeed. I don't think you'll ever find anyone that says, God, I hope Maserati fails.
Yeah, true that. And this is a big deal because I mean, not many people have driven this car yet, and you have. You have driven it.
We were very fortunate. You know, our friends in Europe had better access to it. Motor One, along with our good friends at Road and Track and another site that's escaping me right now, are the only ones that have driven this car so far. You know, because of COVID and all that stuff, and it was great to be able to go over and explore the factory and drive the car. And yeah, it's a dynamite car. I mean, I'm really eager to get one here in the US and spend more time with it, because you know, the couple hours that I had in Italy were just not enough.
Well, for sure. I mean, we're supposed to be debating on this one. I've got nothing. I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, it's a brand new car, so it's. I mean, I guess you could say, well, I mean, yeah, it's a brand new car. How can it be underrated? Nobody knows it. Well, when you see what Toyota did, when you see what Toyota did with a Supra leading up years and years,
the NSX.
Yeah, I mean, so many other cars have been hyped up, and this one isn't. So Maserati,
and just think,
step up your game a little bit.
This is just the coupe. Like, there's going to be a convertible version coming, which I cannot wait for.
I think that's going to be fantastic.
Better. And they're going to do an all electric version. It's going to be the same basic monocoque, all electric. I don't know how much power it has or how much range it's going to have, but it sounds amazing. They're going to be building a coupe, a convertible, and an EV on the same basic platform. That's nuts. Yeah, I'm so excited for it.
Well, Brandon, all of that excitement you have, I'm about to destroy it. So just prepare yourself. This is a vehicle that was mentioned just a moment ago.
If you say NSX, I'm going to lose my mind.
No, hold on. I put the wrong image up. That's mine. It is the Porsche 914.
Underrated?
Yes, I need myself a Volkswagen powered Porsche.
But
well, aren't they all Volkswagen powered? Come on.
Yeah, but this one was like a pretty egregious.
Weren't you defending the Porsche 912 recently? That's how are they different?
No. I was not defending it. I was harassing Jeff.
Okay. Fair difference.
It's very different. He said something about how could you buy a 911, or I'm paraphrasing, or don't drive your 911 to Amelia Island. And I said, but Jeff, I have a 912. And he said that still applied. So
full disclosure, and I will put it up in a second. This one is currently for sale on Bring a Trailer, but the only reason I picked it was because I couldn't find good images of one with the chrome bumpers. I don't usually like chrome bumpers on a car. I think they look fantastic on the 914. Also, if you could give it to me, burnt orange on a 914 is just chef's kiss. Like, I love this car so much, and I know a lot of people don't, and I kind of get it. It's the entry level Porsche of the time, but people don't get mad about Boxster owners. Like, people don't get
give it 20 years.
I guess 924 owners get a little bit.
I mean, this just looks like a piece of plywood with a windshield. That's what always got me. It's just. It's like when you look at the 911, that's just curvaceous and interesting, and then it's like, let's try to design something that's just completely non-interesting in every way. And there you have.
I disagree, though. I disagree.
What side is the front?
But
that's a fair question.
If you can't tell which end of your car is the front and which end of the car is the back, there's a problem.
But form follows function. They didn't need to do all that stuff to the back. There. They didn't. If
you cut a car in half lengthwise, it should be symmetrical. If you cut a car in half widthwise, it should not be symmetrical. That's what this car is symmetrical when you cut it in half widthwise.
Yeah. Sorry, Bruce. I think it's underrated for a reason.
Listen, and I'm sure it might be fabulous to drive. Yeah. It might be great to drive. I've never driven a 914, but I hear the 9146 is pretty dynamite. But
there's like 17 of those in the world. So there are more.
Yeah, I mean,
they're rare. Sure, the four cylinders are, far more common. But
I look at the 914 and I look at the 4-cylinder 718s that are out right now, and I just kind of figured out that I don't want a 4-cylinder Porsche ever.
To me, it's not about the cylinders; it's about the power, right? I'd have no problem with it.
It should be a flat 6.
Well, they made that, just not very many of them. Like, that's a thing that exists.
Oh, I know.
I just can't get past the styling. If you were to debadge that and debadge a 911 of the same era and park them side by side, there is no conceivable way anybody in their right mind would say, well, these came from the same manufacturer. No,
you're right.
No, the 911 came from Porsche, and then this other thing probably came from what, Fiat?
Yeah, I was going to say, for the longest time as a little kid, I didn't know the difference between a 914 and a Fiat X19.
I was about to say that.
I had no idea if they were different cars.
Oh, we're hurting Bruce's feelings here.
You really are.
Hey, we all have our quirks.
Well, yeah,
I've taken enough crap over the years for liking the Mustang too, so I understand where you're at.
It happens. We all have our quirky loves in life.
Well, why don't you guys go ahead and get ready to trash me?
Wait. So super quick here.
You've got more? Okay.
No. I don't actually. I want to show a Fiat X19 just for any of our YouTube watchers who are seeing this. And
it's a slant nose 914. I mean, that's all you need to know.
Well,
it could be.
Here it is for any of our watchers. There's an X19, which I like this car too. So
slant nose 914. Paint the B pillar black.
Yeah,
slant nose 914.
I like them both though. I love that design language.
I think that's hideous.
Well,
I don't think it's
agree to disagree.
I'm not too keen on it.
Why is it bedpan green?
Well, that's just a press photo from the 70s. They didn't understand colors 70s. At the time.
Bedpan green.
Okay. 3 letters, LSD. That's what you need to know right there.
Smith, your turn.
All right. You know what? I won't give this a auditory introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. We'll let everybody laugh.
How bad is this?
And then I'll jump in here. So there you go. Do you know what that is? That's a C4 Corvette.
Right.
But it's not any C4 Corvette.
The CR1.
It's the OG. Well, I guess not the OG ZR1 because that was in the 70s. But this is the 1990 to 1995 Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 with the double overhead cam, 5.7 liter V8.
How is that underrated at all? Those things are like 35 grand.
Yeah.
They're totally underrated. Everybody talks about Corvette. They talk about the newer stuff or they talk about the older stuff, and everybody just
how many of those do they build? How many
the best C4 they made.
They didn't build a lot of them, but the point is nobody's paying attention to them. Nobody's interested, right?
So let me get this straight. The Corvette, a car that is renowned for its reliance on overhead valves. The best version of the Corvette is the dual overhead cam, is what you're saying.
The best version of the C4. Oh, those cars are fantastic. With that high revving V8, they sound nothing like any other Corvette that that was around up to that point. And I mean, until the new Z06 comes out, I mean, this is still in a class by itself. And people have just kind of, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's poo-pooed, but it's just like, what was that? You know? And it's just like, this was such a fantastic car for the time. I mean, we're talking, this was right up there with everything else in the world. In 1990, when that came out, I mean, you're talking the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, the Bugattis, and obviously the McLarens that were going to come later. They were like the first hypercars, really. But this was right there, 395 horsepower. Then it went to, I think, 405 a little bit later on. I still lust after these cars. And if you look around, I mean, you can buy these for like 20, 25 grand.
So real quick, total production I'm looking at now, right around 6,900, which is not a lot, but it's not a little either.
It was seriously expensive back in the day. I can't remember the sticker price, but I mean, it was seriously expensive, but it was such a departure for Corvettes, and the performance was just epic on that car. And like when you go to a Corvette meet, I went to a big Corvette meet out here in South Dakota back when the C8, it was actually the same week that the C8 was announced. And I was all excited to see a bunch of C4 ZR1s, or at least see a few, and I didn't see a single one.
But I don't think that proves that it's underrated. I just think that shows that it's rare. Like, yeah, I agree with you. It's a cool car. I just don't think it's underrated. I just don't think that many of them exist.
I'll be honest. I didn't realize they did a dual overhead cam Corvette until you just brought it up now. I'd never heard of this car.
Lotus design,
think it's very cool.
Right?
I think Lotus was on it. Mercury Marine was on it.
Lotus designed it. Mercury Marine built it, I want to say.
And
that worked. Something like that.
Double overhead cam 350. I think it redlined at like 7 or a little over 7,000 RPM. I mean, when you hear one go, I mean, it's just a cool car. I love
the idea of Corvette doing, outside of the box things. I think there are a few lines of vehicles in the industry that are just way too addicted to their own legend, and
the
Corvette
same formula
is chief
Corvette
among them.
Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the overhead valve engine is like the wood burning stove of engines, and everyone else is doing.
But it's not necessarily a bad.
It's not a bad. It's not a
double
bad
overhead cams have been around since like the early 1920s or even earlier. I mean, it's old technology too. But if you were to line up a C4 ZR1 and a C6 ZR1, I'd take the C4 every single day of the week just because it's cool. With 400 horsepower, it's still not going to be slow. I don't need the 640 and the C6. That's
Can I tell you guys my special theory about performance cars?
Okay.
Okay.
400 horsepower is the perfect amount of power. It doesn't matter the car. 400 horsepower is perfect. You never need any more than that.
Brandon, I think you and I just became really good friends.
Yeah.
My theory is a little bit higher.
I've driven 800 horsepower cars. I've driven 700 horsepower cars. I've driven 650 horsepower. Literally everything from 95 horsepower on up to 800. 400 to 425, 440 is the perfect amount. You do not need any more.
And the reason for that, because I'm with you on that, my threshold is around 500 or so. The reason for that, anything over that, when you mash the gas, you're either just blowing up the tires and smoke, or you're letting the computer control automatically cut your power back down to where it should be anyways.
Yep.
The only place that you're really going to use that extra horsepower is when you're really stretching the legs on the highway somewhere where, I mean,
which you're not allowed to.
You shouldn't be doing that anyway.
Unless you live in Germany.
And we're not just saying that to be ninnies. I mean, I'm sorry. I like to go fast, but if you're going to find an empty highway and go 150 miles an hour, that's just stupid and reckless. You can go to the Silver State Classic and do that. I'm totally on board with you, man. And it's kind of crazy that we're getting into a horsepower war with 700, 800, 1,000, 1,500. It's all just smoke and mirrors and completely useless.
I've driven a lot of fast cars in my time, like a lot of like high performance cars, and 400 to 450 is just perfect.
You can enjoy it. You don't have to worry about it. You can just let it rip. Yep. Wow. Digital high five. Boom.
Wham.
We even silenced Bruce on that one.
No, I can't. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just had nothing to add. Like, I agree with you guys. I might put the number maybe a tad lower, just depending on the car, but yeah, that feels about right.
Well, if you have a good car with good balance, decent traction on the back, I mean, I'm thinking back to the Terminator Cobra I had. That was about 500 horsepower. That was pretty manageable, and I mean, I thought the car was decent, but I mean, it's still not the pinnacle of ultimate balance.
The thing is about really fast cars, and I think to that McLaren or Maserati MC20 and the McLaren 720S, which are the two most powerful, like fastest accelerating cars, and the 911 Turbo, the fastest accelerating cars I've driven in the past year or so. You know, I am not a outstanding driver by any means, but I have some experience. Someone that doesn't have that experience, their mind can't process that kind of performance. And it's the same concern I have over, Tesla selling a car that gets to 60 in 2.8 or 2.5 seconds. No one needs that kind of performance. 400 to 450 horsepower, you're always going to have performance that is invigorating, but never endangering. And yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to. You want to be safe, but still have fun.
Okay. And I mean, yeah, there'll be a lot of people that buy those cars. Well, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. If you want a car that's going to do 60 miles an hour in 2 seconds, fine. You just better either. I almost wonder if there should be some additional licensing at this point, because
I absolutely think there should.
You're buying something that can be horrifically dangerous to somebody that just has no idea what they're doing. And if you have more money than brains, and I mean, let's be honest, there's some of that out there. You jump into one of those, you don't process just how much ground you're going to cover in such a short amount of time, and the next thing you know, boom.
There are so many things that got to go through your mind. You've got to think about, the surface in front of you. You've got to look at traffic. You've got to look. You have to know the road, and are you going to have to make any evasive action? There's so many factors that come into it before you deploy that kind of power, and if you have to look to make those
way
decisions,
down the road,
way the hell down the road.
That's the thing that I think most people don't.
Even beyond that, you have to accept the fact that your brain is going to struggle to process the performance that you're going to deploy. You get this really interesting feeling in your face, like it kind of is like a tingly feeling in your face when you really nail it, and you get to like 60 in 2.5 seconds. And if you're not prepared for that, then you're going to get into an accident. That's all there is to it.
I'm with you.
Do we want to do a quick lightning round, or do we want to call it a night? You guys decide.
Let's do.
It's you guys.
You want to do? Instead of a lightning
round, nothing to do with video games.
I've totally gotten back into snow running now the last few days.
Same here. Yeah.
Mass Effect Legendary Edition, guys.
Oh, you got that? How is it?
It's the originals were brilliant. So it's a great way to sink in like 90 hours if you're looking for time to burn.
Well, see, I never played the originals. I just got into
Car Talk.
So, sorry. Okay, so instead of a lightning round, how about we just do like a quick honorable mention, some other stuff we had on our lists.
Sure, sounds good. I'll go first because I got mine on.
You go first. Overrated and underrated.
So here's my underrated. Overrated, I'll have to look up for you. So 89 to 93 Celica All-Track Turbo.
That was overrated?
Underrated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is definitely underrated.
Definitely underrated. Bravo.
Just totally forgotten. I pulled up, I was looking online. I did a conversion calculator with options. That was like a $55,000 car in modern money, which is kind of a premium Supra. So it was expensive. Not many people bought them. It was, a rally car for the road before any people cared about those. And the few that are out there, just no one really even still kind of knows about them. So
venture to northern lower Michigan outside of Gaylord, Atlanta for Snowdrift in January. You are guaranteed to see like a fleet of those all-tracks.
I would be happy to do that.
It's like an annual convention.
And I don't have an overrated. So Brandon, you go.
I am going to say my underrated and overrated, and I just want to build on the point that started this conversation at the beginning of the show. Overrated and underrated is the Porsche 911.
Depending on which one, sure.
If we're talking about new ones, that's what I'm referring to as new ones.
Okay.
You can build a really boring 911. Really, really boring. It can be silver, it can be white, or it can be black, and it can have a black interior, and it can be an automatic, and it's dull. Mm-hmm. But man, if you play with the Porsche configurator, you can build a killer car. There's so many cool options in there. Like, give me like Miami Blue,
like $5,000.
Yeah, but who cares? Who cares? Give me a C2S in Miami Blue with gold wheels and a houndstooth interior, and that is just cool as hell. And it is incredibly underrated as a driver's car. And going back to what Jeff, was saying, or what I said to Jeff, it's true. The 911 is so good at literally everything. Like it is a great car to buy. But if you're going to buy one, do not get silver and black. Just don't.
Oh, yeah, I think it's fair.
Have some fun. Indulge. It's a sports car. Paint it lime green.
Buy cool colors, you cowards. I think that's a Clint.
Buy cool shit. Full stop. Like
there you go. It's interesting you bring up 911 because for my underrated list, I was going to say I also had a new 911 Carrera. Because when you talk about 911, so many people just want to jump to turbo or GT3. And I'm sorry, but I mean, a modern 911 Carrera, Brandon, you could attest to this. A modern 911 Carrera, it's got good power, good balance. It's just a fun car to drive. And it's like, you don't have to go crazy, right?
I've, in the past year, I've driven, I think it's been less than a year. I've driven a 911 Carrera 4, a C4S, a Targa 4S, a turbo, and I think there was something else in there that I'm forgetting. But I've driven
Targa was the favorite of the bunch that you drove. That was a cool drive.
No, it wasn't actually. My favorite was the C4S with the manual, which was amazing. But there's something to be said about the base model. But what I'm really waiting for is they have not told me this. I'm not breaking any embargoes. I don't know if this is happening. I'm only assuming it's happening. But the new 911, I took that picture.
I know it's a great picture.
The new 911 Carrera T when that comes out, because that will be the base powertrain, but with a bunch of performance items that are standard on the S or optional on the S that are not otherwise available with the base powertrain. And that is the best of both worlds car. It's going to be reasonable performance. It's going to have all the handling goodies and upgraded brakes and probably some other special stuff. And yeah, that car is just going to be friggin' dynamite when it finally happens.
Cool. Let me add one more thing here on my overrated list, and I'm uniquely qualified to say this: Ford Mustang. Sorry to my Mustang friends that are listening.
You got to clarify, how many Mustangs have you owned to be able to say that?
I've only owned 3.
Are you saying underrated or overrated for this?
Overrated.
Okay.
Overrated. They're good cars. The new ones, hey, they got great power. But it's just, the hype is just ridiculous. And maybe it's because I've been involved with various clubs over the years. I know each car with a passionate following will have passionate supporters and people that are really into the car. But I've been in a few different clubs. I've joined with other kind of competing clubs, if you will, some of the Mopar guys, some of the Camaro guys. I've just never seen people completely lose their mind over a car like the Mustang, and I just don't get it. And honestly, it even makes it hard for me to be in clubs just because all they want to do is trash other people's cars. When I had my 03 Terminator, my Cobra, I was even trying to join a Terminator Cobra club because I loved the car. Mm-hmm. And all they did was trash talk like the new 5.0 Mustang guys. And it just seems like, take a breath, step back, just enjoy the car. It's not the end all be all. And I think, I think when you talk about pony cars, it's gotten really overrated. I can't wait to see an electric Mustang come out and just smoke all of the internal combustion Mustangs. This is coming from a guy that has an older 5.0 in his garage that is very loud. But I'm ready for the electric revolution. And yeah, so send your hate mail to podcast@motor1.com. I will respond to you, Mustang people. I will happily respond and politely respond.
Of course.
But yeah, overrated. All
right. Well, I think that wraps things up for tonight. Yeah.
Is there anybody we didn't piss off with this episode?
I hope not.
We didn't really talk anything
about Tesla people. No Tesla people.
Oh, okay.
That's because Teslas
we don't have
belong.
We don't have enough time in this podcast for me to go on about Tesla.
We don't have enough time in any podcast for that. Right. I think
Tesla would be infinitely more tolerable if Elon Musk didn't exist. There,
agreed. No, that's fair. That's
totally fair. I think I'm with you there too.
Yeah. Great. Okay, I don't want to say great cars, adequate cars. Okay. Not great cars, adequate cars. Okay, we're gonna stop before
we could also say Harley Davidsons are overrated. I don't know if anybody just heard the straight pipe Harley that went by my open window. Might be a little bit of overrating there, but another episode for another time.
That's right.
Podcast@motor1.com. Catch us online every Fridays. We have new episodes that drop. We post them on motor1.com. You can get them on YouTube. You can get us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Bruce, yeah, take us home, man.
Yeah. So as always, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Whenever you happen to listen to us, we appreciate you being here. Like Smith said, podcast@motor1.com is the email address. Whether you want to, educate us about a model that we didn't know about, like that Dodge, or whether we got the year of the Honda Civic introduction wrong, like a few weeks ago, or you just want to praise us, which we get those too. Like, all of it is appreciated. Like, we love cars, but no one is an expert on every single car that is on the road ever. Like, that just doesn't exist.
True story.
And so we love getting your feedback, and we love the fact that you listen to us and you trust us with getting your feedback. So thank you. And just to go behind the curtain, episodes of this show, we kind of try to balance timely, where we talk about news, and timeless, where it's just a bunch of people talking about cars, whether they're new or old. So you got
kind of like today.
Exactly. You got one of the episodes that anyone could pick this episode up at any time and listen to it, and it's going to be fresh. And we like doing that. We like having a balance of both of those things. So we hope you do too. And thank you, and good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.